I'm Marshall Reyes, 62, and tonight I pressed the clicker at Thanksgiving. On the screen, my VA pension rerouted to a new account, DocuSign envelope showing a durable POA pre-filled by Brandon, a marketplace receipt for my bronze star sold through a burner, process server at the door, civil complaint ready, criminal referral bagged, witnesses listed, QR packets numbered. I froze credit, traced ACH, locked mail, and retained counsel. They called it family help. I call it theft. So, do we settle or litigate to the end? I'm Marshall Reyes, 62. This is the ledger I built the day I realized help had turned into a structured drain. I didn't write feelings. I wrote dates, transactions, screenshots, and names, because paper doesn't lie, and memory gets negotiated. First entry. The co-signed microloan that taught me how fast a boundary gets gamed when the calendar is your only defense. Brandon came in with a typed 30-day bridge note, $7,500. A clean little PDF like a business plan. I said no cosigns, not for family, not for anyone. He tapped the paper with a knuckle and said, "It's just a month, Dad. 60 days tops. They need a second signature and we're done." I countered with a safer path. A dated IOU and a small time-boxed advance with receipts, capped at $1,000, payable in 2 installments, interest waived if paid on time. He nodded, sent a new DocuSign with the same $7,500, but renamed microloan with sponsor. The guilt hook came in a text. "You always talk about duty. This is duty. 30 days. I documented the message, took a photo of my desk calendar with the date circled, and, against my own doctrine, signed. The lender approved in 46 minutes. I received an automated alert because my credit froze on all 3 bureaus didn't block soft pulls. I logged the envelope ID, IP address, and time. Day 15, a payment reminder email to Brandon bounced. I screenshotted the mailer Damon response. Day 30, nothing. Day 31, I got a delinquency warning addressed to me as co-signer, not him. I called the lender, requested the call recording under their quality assurance policy, and asked for the ACH trace on any attempted drafts. They had none. Day 45, a second notice. I escalated. I pulled $7,500 from a CD I'd kept for emergencies, lost $225 to the early withdrawal penalty, and paid the balance to stop a late mark. My FICO dropped a full 120 points because a 30-day late hit before I intercepted it. The lender added me as responsible party in their system. I flagged the account, froze my Experian TransUnion Equifax again, added a fraud alert, and wrote a new rule on the first page of the ledger. No unsecured family debt. Not ever. Not for 30 days. Not for one. Tactical self-critique. I let duty get framed by someone who only needed my signature, not my terms. Past pattern validated. Escalate documentation. Second entry. The rent-free stay that turned into arrears, with an HOA that doesn't care about family dynamics. Brandon and Tessa needed 2 months tops to reset after a job shift. I itemized the offer. Spare room use, utilities split by meter read, guest Wi-Fi profile, no shared credentials. I tapped a 1-page addendum. If payment lapsed, they'd vacate or we'd convert to a leaseback at fair market rate, signed and dated. The guilt pitch was neat. "It's weird to sign a paper with your son. We're not strangers." I held my ground and insisted he signed. Tessa initialed by each clause. Month 1, power and water climbed. I ran the CSVs, kilowatt hours up by 38%, gallons by 27%. I sent a friendly reminder with the meter delta and dollar amounts. $212 for power, $74 for water, $180 HOA, $60 internet. Total, $526. They thanked me and Zelled $250 tagged groceries. I replied with a screenshot of the ledger entry and the unpaid balance. Week 3, I received a notice from the HOA. Common area violation fine for an unregistered vehicle parked overnight, $95, plus a warning about trash bins left out. I forwarded it and asked them to register the plate. They said the car was temporary and would be gone by Friday. Friday came, car still there, and the second notice added $95 more. By the end of month 2, utilities and HOA stacked to $1,860. I asked for full settlement before month 3. They said, "If you charge us like a landlord, we'll find somewhere else, and moved out Saturday night after dinner without a walkthrough. 2 weeks later, I got the HOA intention to lien letter. Total now, $4,980, including late fees, and the 2 fines because the account sat under my homeowner record. I paid it same day to avoid the lien clock, called the HOA manager, and requested a payment ledger for my records. I took photos of the empty room, noted the scuffed baseboard and a missing lockbox key from my tool bench, and appended a new clause to my future favors protocol. No more stay here offers without a deposit, a keyed hardware audit, and a lease that flips to market rent on day 31. Quiet note to self? Family proximity without accountability isn't help, it's leverage. Pattern from past logged propels to next file. Third entry. Taxes. The kind I made him sign a single sentence acknowledgement on the ledger. Mail sent here is not my responsibility beyond scanning and forwarding the same day. He nodded. April passed. In June, a CP14 notice arrived addressed to him. Balance due $1,163 because he hadn't paid the first estimate. In July, a CP501 warning followed. I scanned both, emailed with read receipt, and texted, "Action required. Pay online. IRS Direct Pay Memo 2024-1040 ES Q1. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji. 3 weeks later, a CP504 came, the lien intent letter that escalates if ignored. The problem? The envelope sat in my mailbox while I was at a VA appointment, and by the time I forwarded it, the processing window was tight. I called the IRS line, sat through the menu, and got a rep who let me log a third-party caller note. I wasn't the taxpayer, but the mail had hit my address. She told me the next letter triggers levy notice if not handled. I wrote a certified letter with his signature block pasted, included copies of the CP14/CP501/CP504, and sent it to the processing center. But I also paid $1,163 online through my own bank to stop the meter and wrote, "Paid under protest" in the ledger. I printed the direct pay confirmation with the trace number, attached it to my records, and filed a reimbursement request to him with 30-day terms. He sent back $300 labeled partial, then said, "You know IRS takes months. Chill." I documented the exact quote. Lesson appended. Never be the mailing address, not even for a week. Tactical reflection? Helpful becomes liable the second a clock starts in your name. The ledger doesn't care how nice the intention sounded. Fourth entry. The reallocated travel funds. The day my name showed up on a program and I watched an empty chair hold my place while Family Weekend collected my airfare. The invitation had landed in March. A VFW District Honors Night wanted me to present colors. Travel reimbursed. I bought a refundable ticket in advance, $186.20, emailed the travel coordinator, and budgeted per diem with receipts. 2 weeks before the event, Brandon texted me a screenshot of a medical imaging invoice with a balance due of $1,280, due today, and added, "We'll be homeless by Monday if we miss this." I called the listed hospital number. It routed to general scheduling, not billing. I paused, then did what I shouldn't have. I sent $1,280 with the memo "Urgent Imaging," logged the transaction, and set an internal tickler to request the EOB. 5 days later, I got a ping on Instagram from a mutual. A story of Brandon and Tessa at a resort 2 hours away. Champagne and a view. I captured the story with a screen recorder, saved it with time and date, and cross-referenced the resort's tagged location. I pulled my bank categorizations. Their prior 3 Zelle requests were consistently labeled groceries, and their debit card spends showed at a spa the same day for $269 and $189. I sent a one-line message: provide itemized hospital statement or return funds by Friday. Friday came and went. The VFW night arrived. I stood listed in the program, seat left open, name read. I documented the program sheet, saved a photo, and emailed a 1-paragraph apology with proof of my excusable reason. None. Because I had none. That weekend I filed a bank dispute on the $1,280 as fraud by misrepresentation. The bank explained Zelle doesn't support reversals absent law enforcement involvement. I logged the denied with the case number. I added an entry to my aid protocol. Funds only upon primary source verification. No third-party screenshots, no urgent imaging, no exceptions. Hindsight note? They didn't reinvent manipulation. They relabeled it. Past request confirmed as pattern. Evidence logged for escalation. Fifth entry, medical reimbursement. Smaller on the surface, mastier on the back end. Tessa messaged me at 9:12 p.m. Urgent pediatric bill, $2,940. Card failed. Can you float it for 48 hours? She attached a photo of a statement with a hospital logo cropped too tight. I responded with my protocol in one sentence. Have billing office call me. I'll pay directly with confirmation number and name on account. She replied, they're closed and won't hold the spot. The phrase, hold the spot, is a tell. Hospitals don't hold spots like concert tickets. I called the hospital's billing line the next morning at 8:01, gave them the name and DOB, and got a balance due of $0. Insurance overpaid. Credit on file, $37. I asked for a written statement by email. They sent it. I forwarded it to Tessa and asked for clarification. She said the bill was from a different portal, then sent a second screenshot with slightly different typography. I dragged both images into a blank document, zoomed in on the typeface, and saw the invoice number repeated in 2 places with non-matching check digits. I printed it, circled the mismatched digits, and wrote in the margin, fabricated? Rather than accuse, I tested. I said, I'll meet you at billing at noon and pay it on the window. She said, it has to be online. I declined, and within an hour she pivoted to, never mind, found another way, sorry for the stress. I logged the pivot, time-stamped the texts, added her phrasing, hold the spot, to a list of pressure keywords and folded that into my filter for future asks. I also ran a courtesy check with the hospital compliance office, sent them the fake invoice screenshot, and asked if they'd seen similar. They thanked me and opened an internal case. Reflection? When facts are inconvenient, the story moves platforms. Don't chase it. Demand the window. Sixth entry. The tool theft that told me we were now inside the property line. It started stupid. I couldn't find my lockbox key after the rent-free stay. I brushed it off, used the backup, and only noticed something real when my torque wrench and a specialized alignment kit vanished. I checked my garage inventory, a simple spreadsheet with serials and purchase dates, and marked 4 items missing: the torque wrench, a rotary hammer, a nailer, and a diagnostic OBD reader. I checked receipts and serial photos stored in my read-only cloud folder, then walked the pawn shops within 10 miles with a small envelope of serial printouts. Shop 3 recognized the nailer model. The clerk said a similar one had come in 2 weeks prior and pointed to the back. I asked to view items that matched and read serials. They couldn't allow serial checks without a police request, so I filed one. The officer took my list. I gave him the photos and receipts, and a week later he called me. 2 items had matching serials in a pawn database. A ticket existed with a truncated seller name and a phone suffix that matched Brandon's area code. I hired a PI for a small retainer, $600, to run a lawful social scrape and physical verification. He bought the items back as part of a sting purchase, kept the receipt, and documented the handoff to law enforcement. I logged chain of custody, my purchase receipts, the PI's buy receipt, the officer's property slip. I confronted Brandon only with paper. I put the 2 purchase receipts and the pawn ticket copy on the table and asked him to explain. His response wasn't explanation. It was a pivot. If you trusted me more, I wouldn't need to borrow tools. The word borrow met the pawn slip's purchase price. I didn't argue. I wrote 3 lines in the ledger. Change locks, install cameras, and add no trespass template letter for use if required. Then I did the actions. Smart locks installed same day, pins rotated, 2 cameras placed to cover the garage and the door, cloud account set to 2-factor with a hardware key. I added him to the do not share credentials list and documented the reason. Tactical aside, the minute you need a camera, you're late. Install before you're asked to trust. Those are the anchor files. But the ledger filled with smaller chains that matter because fraud compounds. The recurring Zelle taps came labeled groceries, but the bank CSVs showed clusters that always aligned with discretionary spending. I pulled 3 months of their debit history after they gave me temporary view access to organize the budget and noticed a pattern. A groceries request within 24 hours of either a restaurant total over $150 or a beauty spa charge. I built a chart. Request amount on the left, discretionary spend within 72 hours on the right. The correlation was too neat for coincidence. I messaged Brandon, attached the chart, and said, "Requests will require receipts going forward." He replied, "You run your household like a unit. This is family." That line went into the ledger under reputation leverage attempts. Another chain, school pickup blocks. I tried to pick up my granddaughter one Friday with a pre-approved note from her mother. The office assistant told me my clearance had been paused. Someone had flagged me as not safe for release. I asked who. She couldn't say. I came back with the printed authorization and ID, and the principal had a note to verify with Brandon. I didn't argue there either. I wrote a clean, dated letter, had it notarized, and placed it in the student file to eliminate "he said" on the next attempt. Then I logged the incident in the ledger under reputation warfare preparation. Quiet reflection. Soft reputational smears aren't accidental. They set the field for legal isolation. Document early, counter once, and put a stamp on it. Another chain. "We'll handle the paperwork, Dad." This line showed up when I was recovering from a minor procedure and the mail came stacked. Brandon offered to take care of the mail and set up autopay for me so nothing falls through the cracks. I declined and instead scanned and archived every envelope. 2 stood out: credit card convenience check offers and a pre-approval for an auto lease. I shredded the checks, opted out of paper checks via the issuer's privacy settings, and froze secondary credit files. Check systems, Innovis, LexisNexis. I filed this as a thwarted attempt, not at risk, because the offer was there and the offer was enough. Administrative overreach attempt preempted. Another chain. Attempt at equity unlock. Brandon pitched a deed transfer for tax efficiency, claiming I'd save on probate and they could help with upkeep if they had their names on title. I took the pitch, asked for their proposed instrument, and got a half-done quitclaim template with my parcel number typed in. I didn't argue. I booked a consult with a trust attorney, funded a simple revocable trust in my name, and executed a new deed from me to me as trustee, recorded same day. When Brandon came back with, "Did you think about it?" I said, "I did," and showed him the recorded deed number and the trust's successor trustee structure, not him. He said, "You don't trust family." I said nothing, wrote, "Asset hardening complete," and set calendar reminders for quarterly trust reviews. Assessment? Control your paperwork or watch it used as a lever. New rule in the ledger? If someone else proposes a document, bring a better one and file it first. The ledger evolved. I built a receipt or no funds policy and pushed it through every subsequent ask. When someone said groceries, I wrote, "Send the cart and I'll pay the store directly." When they said car seat, I bought and shipped the model they named to my house for pickup. If they asked for gas money, I loaded a prepaid fuel card that required a zip code and could be deactivated in one click. Requests dropped. The ones that remained got nastier in tone and thinner in detail. That tone shift got logged, too. A short aside to the camera system. After the tool incident, I installed 2 cameras and a video doorbell, kept the default privacy zones minimal, and added a micro SD as backup. 1 week later, a delivery appeared with my name and an e-sign pad request from the courier. The tablet screen showed a DocuSign-style signature box for a signature release authorization update. I declined, took the paper version, and scanned it. The camera captured the courier, the package, and the refusal. That recording mattered later when "we sent you a form and you signed" became a line in a different argument. I kept thinking, quietly, have you ever noticed how help demands speed and proof demands a pause? So I took a breath, forced the pause, and wrote more. I started exporting bank histories weekly, CSVs downloaded, reconciled against my zero-based budget, recurring ACHs tagged. I created a read-only cloud folder and shared a QR link with myself, no one else, so I could open it on my phone and show a time-stamped record when a claim came up. I built move-fast responses that required no debate, spoliation letter templates, affidavit templates for bank branch managers, and a standard "please forward this to your legal department" email with my contact block and the phrase "contemporaneous documentation maintained." Each was an overkill. Each saved a day later when "prove it" arrived. And then the micro chains started to converge. A bronze star went missing under the pretext of "we'll get them framed for the ceremony." A shipping address got changed on a VA portal page I hadn't touched, and an ACH redirect I didn't authorize appeared in a bank alert. A gratitude card showed up that was just a signature page sliding toward a durable POA. When small signals align like that, you don't call it coincidence. You call it prep. The ledger's past entries didn't read like memories anymore. They read like rehearsal. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was compiling a case. But a case only matters if a line gets crossed so hard you can't pretend it's gray. And that line was about to get lit up in one 30-day window that tied the pension, the medals, and a signature I didn't put on paper. That's where the ledger stops and the war starts, because the next chain didn't cost me a late fee or a weekend. It hit my name, my service, and my income in one coordinated push. That's when I stopped accepting their definitions and pulled mine. You want the point of no return? It arrives with an ACH trace number, a marketplace receipt, and a POA metadata field that says pre-filler Brandon Reyes, all three at once. That's when you stop forgiving misunderstandings and you start counting exhibits. And that's where I'll pick up next, because after that, there wasn't any ambiguity left to negotiate, only evidence to collect and a clock to beat. It started with a variable I couldn't ignore, small anomalies stacking too clean. My VA pension deposit, $2,650 a month like clockwork, missed its expected timestamp in my bank's alert system. I log into the portal. Credentials fail on first attempt, pass on second. The deposit line is absent. I pull up the transaction history, and instead of my long-standing receiving account, the ACH shows a new routing and account number. I run a trace, ID in hand within 5 minutes, and call the bank's fraud desk. They confirm. The redirect request was processed through an address change in the VA system, origin IP logged. I request the IP. It matches a range I know, Brandon's cable provider, same prefix as his home network. I export the VA portal access logs, get the timestamps, and highlight 2 entries from Brandon's zip. That's an immediate breach of income control. Same week I'm working on the ledger when a PI I've kept on retainer sends me a short message. Metals confirmed, sale completed. He attaches a PDF, marketplace invoice for a bronze star and campaign ribbons, bought by his burner account to preserve chain of custody. The seller's ID matches to an email tied to Brandon's device, confirmed via a reverse lookup. I add the item, photos, receipt, and chat log from the marketplace into evidence packet 04. I print and seal a physical copy with a tamper strip. Selling military honors isn't just theft, it's a documented federal crime. That alone could have been the trigger, but the third strike came faster. A padded envelope lands in my mailbox, hand-addressed. Inside is a folded card that says, "Gratitude." In the fold, no message, no photo, just a signature page. Bottom line, my name, scanned from a prior document, pasted onto a durable POA granting full control over my house and bank accounts to Brandon. The file had been through DocuSign. I pull the metadata from the envelope ID in the footer. It lists pre-filler Brandon Reyes, sent from his email, with his device fingerprint and IP, the same prefix as the VA breach. The date? 3 days after the metal sale and the pension reroute. That's a coordinated push. Income, assets, and symbolic value all in 30 days. No calls, no confrontations. I move straight to verification. First, I print the VA portal logs, attach the ACH trace, and request notarized letters from both banks confirming the account change and the reversal request filed. Second, I forward the marketplace packet to counsel with the PI's affidavit, noting chain of custody for the bronze star. Third, I have a notary witness my statement on the forged POA and append the DocuSign metadata. I contact all 3 credit bureaus, place extended fraud alerts, and freeze Innovis and check systems. I pull my title from the county recorder's online index to confirm no other documents have been filed. Nothing yet, but this is the window they were aiming to exploit. Cold assessment? This wasn't a slip into desperation. It was a timed operation. The metal moves off the record before I notice the missing deposit. The deposit reroute hits before the POA lands. So if I sign and they activate, they'd have control over income and house in one motion. Just paperwork becomes a full-scale transfer of identity and assets. The only question left wasn't if they'd crossed the line, it was how much more they'd try before I shut it down. And that answer was already forming, one exhibit at a time. First move, secure the perimeter. The morning after the forged POA landed, I booked back-to-back blocks with my elder abuse litigator and my trust attorney. At 0900, the litigator drafted and sent preservation letters, spoliation notices, to the VA's benefits office, my bank, Brandon's bank, and the online marketplace that handled the metal sale. Each letter demanded retention of all logs, IP data, and transaction records from the last 90 days. A TRO request went into the court's e-filing system before lunch, targeting any further contact with my financial institutions without my direct consent. At 11:15, my trust attorney finalized the transfer of my primary residence into my already prepared revocable trust, updated my successor trustee list, and filed the new deed with the recorder's office, time-stamped and recorded same day, so no later filing could slip past. I left with certified copies in a sealed envelope for the evidence binder. Parallel track, digital lockdown. That afternoon, I rotated every password on my bank, VA, and utility accounts, replacing them with randomly generated strings stored on an encrypted hardware key. I added two-factor authentication to every service that offered it, and for the VA portal, I switched to a physical security key. I initiated a USPS mail hold, opened a new P.O. box in a branch across town, and filed a change of address for all financial and legal correspondence. My VA deposit was rerouted to a new locked-down account at a different institution, one that doesn't allow third-party ACH pulls. Credit bureaus remained frozen, and I filed security alerts with Innovis and check systems as well. By 1500, any attempt to repeat the pension reroute would auto-fail. Then, reconnaissance. I formalized the PI's role, contract amended to include a full social media scrape, marketplace monitoring, and GPS-verified surveillance of the SUV Brandon had co-leased under my name. Within 48 hours, he delivered a map of unsecured debts Brandon had in play, 102,400 spread across high-interest cards, personal loans, and the fraudulent SUV lease. Photos came with metadata intact. Brandon driving the SUV, medals boxed in the rear seat on the day they were sold, and screenshots of voice notes discussing moving the medals and keeping the deposit schedule for the rerouted pension. I had the PI's chain of custody certified by a notary before filing it in packet 06. Next, controlled bait. I used an alias email account tied to a prepaid mobile hotspot, sending a message to Brandon about a small windfall from a class action settlement, attaching a fake statement showing $18,500 sitting in a pending disbursement status. Within hours, Brandon replied with a consolidation plan to pool family assets for mutual benefit, requesting account credentials to streamline the deposits. The message headers gave me another IP, same ISP, same service area. I had counsel's investigator archive the message chain, preserving the raw EML files with full headers intact. That was the confirmation. They'd take any unsecured opening. Evidence consolidation came next. Every bank PDF, every VA screenshot, every EXIF stamp photo, and each audio file transcription went into numbered packets, 12 in total, each with a QR code linking to a read-only cloud folder. I produced physical binders for counsel, the PI, and myself, each copy signed across the spine to detect tampering. Chain of custody logs documented every handoff. Final hardening move, insurance. I added identity theft coverage to my homeowner's policy, verified my umbrella coverage for legal defense, and set a quarterly review cadence with my trust attorney. By the end of week 1, the perimeter was locked, the intelligence was in hand, and the bait had confirmed their intent in writing. Now it wasn't about defense. It was about choosing the moment to go on offense, and making sure when I did, there would be no room for them to claim confusion or accident. Thanksgiving was the window I picked because it guaranteed witnesses and a clean timeline. I set the room with binders labeled Evidence Packet 01 Tro 12, each stamped and QR-coded to a read-only folder, a sign-in sheet with printed time boxes, a body cam synced to the living room camera, and a single remote in my pocket. At 17:59, I photographed the wall clock and the first slide to lock time across devices. At 18:05, Council's investigator pressed record and I started the death. I opened with what I could prove. My VA pension, $2,650 per month, was rerouted. Slide 1 was the ACH trace with date, time, and a receiving account ending in unfamiliar digits. Slide 2, VA portal access logs with origin IP blocks matching Brandon's ISP and zip. Slide 3, the marketplace invoice for my Bronze Star bought by our PI's burner for chain of custody. Slide 4, a DocuSign envelope report identifying pre-filler Brandon Reyes on a durable POA signature page tucked in a gratitude card. 4 artifacts, 1 plan. Brandon tried to front-run. Out of context. I advanced to the audio. We heard him say, "Move the metals today, keep the deposit schedule once the reroute sticks, and get him to sign the page in the card." I looked at the clock, 18:18, and nodded. The doorbell rang on cue. The process server stepped in, verified Brandon by photo, and handed him a stapled packet. Civil complaint for conversion, fraud, and financial elder abuse. Notice of criminal referral enclosed. Service time stamped on the affidavit. Witness documentation came next. The investigator circulated declarations. Name, contact, what they saw, heard, slide numbers referenced. People wrote while I kept the deck moving. Slide 5 showed my extended fraud alerts. Slide 6, USPS mail hold and new P.O. box. Slide 7, bank letters acknowledging ACH block and reroute reversal. Each slide's QR opened the underlying PDF. I repeated the only line a judge needs. These aren't accusations. These are exhibits. Then I pivoted to filings. On my laptop, mirrored so counsel could watch, I submitted the DMV fraud affidavit for the $68,000 SUV lease, attached the DocuSign audit trail, and emailed the dealership's general counsel an FCRA dispute packet demanding an immediate hold and CCTV preservation for the signing bay. I CC'd the lender's fraud unit and included SHA-256 hashes of each file. The slide behind me listed the case IDs as they posted. Bankside, I faxed notarized letters to both institutions. 1 to block any ACH credits from the fraudulent receiving account, 1 to confirm the reroute reversal and order copies of all communications purporting to be from me, with headers and IP data. While fax confirmations printed, I toggled debit filters and disabled unknown checks. Alerts set to fire on any new payee attempt. Quiet note, speed beats stories. Reputation reversal started the same hour. I delivered the community app admin a 1-page statement of record Thanksgiving, identifying 3 false rumors and linking proofs. Rerouted pension, packet 03. Metal sale, packet 04. Forged POA, packet 05. Demand, takedown within 24 hours. Preservation of moderator logs. Removal of unsafe elder. The admin replied, received. Logged time and attachment hashes. For the room, I closed on next steps and read what any clerk would read. Docket number for the TRO. DMV affidavit receipt. Lender case ID, bank fraud case numbers. Subpoena list, marketplace, banks, portal contractor. Then I ended the gathering. As guests left, the investigator scanned each declaration to packet 10, appended the sign-in sheet, and updated chain of custody by page count. No drama, only receipts. Morning, police station. I delivered 2 binders and a thumb drive, stated theft by false pretenses, identity theft, forgery, and provided the marketplace invoice, PI affidavit, audio transcript, DocuSign report, and the photo timeline of metals boxed, listed, and sold. The detective paged through, paused at the pre-filler field, issued a case number, and requested raw audio. I handed the drive, obtained a property receipt, and listed both numbers in the ledger. Count-a-bunches arrived on schedule. 11:12, password resets pinged accounts now behind hardware keys. 12:03, bank flagged failed attempts to add payees. 13:15, the lender confirmed a hold on the SUV account and retention of GPS pings for 30 days. I logged each event and cross-referenced alerts. Small reminder, accuracy over anger keeps the record clean. Counsel filed the civil complaint and served discovery. Produced devices used to access my accounts. Produce marketplace communications about the metals. Produce records for any account receiving transfers tied to my name. We noticed the deposition of the dealership's finance manager for day 60. Subpoenas went out to the marketplace, the portal contractor, and both banks for access logs. Spoliation letters had closed the hole. Now the clock worked for us. I met the dealership's GC with an appointment. I presented an e-signature mismatch chart, my signatures versus the applied signature hash and envelope metadata, and requested 3 actions: lock the account, engage an independent e-sign forensic vendor, and pull CCTV for the purported signing window. I left the forensic report and a USB with hashed copies of all materials. I waited for the only email that matters. Hold applied. Back home, I executed the cutoff. I posted a no trespass notice and mailed a certified copy to Brandon with return receipt. I blocked numbers and emails, wiped guest Wi-Fi, rekeyed the garage, rotated smart lock pins, and placed a written bank instruction. Any inquiry referencing me goes to counsel. That letter sat with the TRO request, so a branch manager could see scope on a single page. The goal wasn't posture. It was friction. Neighbors and the handyman who had canceled got the same one-pager with QR links. No speeches. They scanned, saw the artifacts, and resumed normal. I logged reputation restored, service resumed, and filed the confirmation email. Documents, not explanations. By day 10, Brandon's bank called after the ACH reversal flagged his receiving account. Their investigator requested permission to share my packet internally. I signed consent. The ACH path closed. Later that afternoon, a withdrawal attempt on his side bounced against the reversal. The log landed in my inbox. Mini twist. Fraud has latency. Blocks echo. Day 12. Marketplace records arrived. Login IPs, timestamps, chat logs. We matched them to Brandon's ISP and to the device fingerprint in the DocuSign envelope. Counsel's paralegal built a tight timeline. Metals box 914, photo EXIF, listed 1003, sold 1327, pension reroute 1641, POA envelope sent 1802, 1 day. I stared 3 seconds, audacity breathtaking, then wrote the line that mattered. Sequence proves coordination. The lender issued a letter suspending payment obligations, pending investigation, and warning the dealership of indemnity exposure if forgery stands. They offered to install a courtesy device, kill switch, if fraud is confirmed. Brandon texted from an unknown number. "You're ruining us." Counsel replied with a litigation hold reminder and settlement terms. Return the bronze star, sign admission, make me whole. No reply. The detective requested a supplemental statement and the original voice notes. I delivered both with a new chain of custody form. He said they were seeking a warrant for Brandon's phone and router logs. I recorded the filing date. Dates drive outcomes. Day 15, the TRO hearing. Counsel walked exhibits in 3 minutes. The judge granted a 14-day order barring contact with my banks, the VA, the dealership, the lender, and my property. Reason? Strong documentary evidence. I wrote it verbatim and set the review date. Consequences stacked. The community app admin sent a written apology, removed the rumor post, and confirmed preservation of moderator logs. The dealership acknowledged Baycam footage pulled in coordination with the lender. My bank forwarded spoofed emails that looked like mine. We added headers to the report and filed brand impersonation notices. Brandon floated a counter-narrative with relatives. The QR packets neutralized it because a phone and a brain beat whispers. I gave a short VFW workshop. Boundary and paper trail tactics. Pay vendors directly. Enforce receipt or no funds. Build read-only evidence folders. Timestamp everything. I handed out templates. Affidavit, dispute letter, spoliation notice. One attendee said the process would save his uncle money. Network effect is a metric, not a feeling. Brandon called my lawyer to clarify. Counsel recorded with consent and restated the binary. Restitution plus signed admission and metal return, or discovery. Brandon said the metal was gone. The PI had the buyer's cooperation email. A return is possible when a sale proceeds from theft and the buyer is on notice. Counsel said so. Brandon tried the old play, "He's not well." Counsel played the 10-second clip of Brandon instructing the scheme. Silence. Momentum shifts when the record speaks. End of the month, the scoreboard matched the plan. SUV account, on hold. Pension deposit routed to a locked institution that rejects third-party pulls. Metal trail tied to Brandon's IP and device fingerprint. Rumors rolled back because QR-coded exhibits outlive gossip. My routine held: weekly CSV exports, reconciled lines, prepared affidavits, quarterly trust review on calendar. Victory here isn't noise, it's compliance. I documented outcomes on a ledger page titled Reckoning. Each line traced an action to a result. Slideshow, witness declarations. Process server, service confirmed. Audio, admission by voice. DMV, lender filings, account hold and investigation IDs. Bank letters, ACH blocks. App demand, takedown plus log preservation. No trespass, reduced surface area. Workshop, network lift. Have you noticed justice in real life is a stack of small, numbered wins, not a single gavel? That's the point. I didn't chase apology. I enforced procedure. And procedure delivered, one timestamp at a time. I treated alliances like equipment. Inspected, issued, and maintained. First, the legal ally. I sat across from my elder abuse litigator at 9-eyed on a Monday, binder 0112 on the table, and we built a campaign plan with dates you can hold. He set discovery windows, 30 days for written, 45 for depositions, 60 for third-party production. We mapped counts, conversion, fraud, financial elder abuse, and assigned proof to each element. He opened his case file, created an exhibit map, and keyed every artifact to a claim and a witness. My job was straightforward: keep the stream clean. He took a $7,500 replenishing retainer, invoiced against actual filings, and gave me the docket number so I could tie every future line item to an outcome. I left with 3 actions: finalize declarations from the Thanksgiving witnesses, prep a settlement term sheet that required full admission and restitution, and schedule a meet and confer with the dealership's counsel for the SUV. Quiet note to self: process is a rail. Once you're on it, momentum is math. We filed interrogatories that asked narrow, lethal questions. Identify every device used to access my VA portal since June. List all accounts that received funds from any source naming me. Produce the original file and envelope metadata for the so-called gratitude card. State whether medals were in your possession on specific dates. Each question lined up with an exhibit. Each answer would cross-lock with logs. The paralegal built a 4-column grid: question, exhibit, expected denial path, rebuttal proof. We served subpoenas with retention language already baked in: banks, marketplace, ISP. Counsel drafted a protective order to keep sensitive numbers sealed and set a discovery calendar with reminders synced to both our phones. I added those timestamps to my ledger so no deadline would float into ambiguity. Hindsight validated. This is why I built the ledger early. It reduced the cost of proof by half. We calibrated settlement posture without bluff. Counsel wrote a 3-page term sheet. Brandon returns or pays full market value for the Bronze Star. Signs a notarized admission of the reroute and POA attempt. Reimburses me for all costs. Agrees to a no-contact order and a consent judgment we can file if he defaults. We didn't send it yet. Timing matters. We waited for the marketplace's production and the dealership's CCTV to close the exits. While we waited, counsel prepped 2 motions. One to compel if Brandon forgets devices. Another to expand the TRO if he contacts my banks again. Each draft lived in his system, ready to file at a click. Quiet thought. Prepping moves before they're needed turns other people's urgency into your schedule. Fees needed discipline. We converted his invoices to a weekly cadence with line item detail. Filing fees, service of process, transcript deposits. I paid from a dedicated legal fund I built by selling a secondary vehicle and moving idle cash into T-bills laddered at 4-week intervals, so liquidity and interest worked together. Every Friday I reconciled. Docket events met or exceeded invoices. No black box, just inputs and outputs. Past chaos replaced by cadence. Proof the system works. Second, the tactical ally. Aaron Malone, a retired Signals NCO turned cybersecurity consultant, showed up with a field kit, write blockers, a clean laptop, and 2 hardware keys. We did a full security sweep that afternoon. Aaron started with my router. Firmware updated, admin password rotated to a 20-character passphrase, WPS disabled, SSID changed, guest Wi-Fi split into a true VLAN, IoT devices isolated on a separate network with no lateral movement, DHCP reserved for known MAC addresses, logs shipped to a local sys log collector on the new laptop. She enabled DNS over HTTPS, pointed it to a filtering provider, and set blocks for known phishing domains. We created a weekly log export job at 2300 Sunday, stored to the read-only cloud with a hash noted in the ledger. Then she reconfigured the firewall to deny inbound by default and rate limit outbound anomalies. Immediate benefit? A rogue smart plug pinged an overseas endpoint. She quarantined it, and I replaced it with a dumb plug. Small action, big surface area reduction. On my machines, Erin imaged the system drive to an external SSD using a write blocker, computed SHA-256 hashes, and sealed the drive with tamper tape. That gave us a snapshot in case we needed to show no malware was present before a certain date. She audited startup items, services, and scheduled tasks, removed an abandoned remote assistance agent, and checked for mail forwarding rules that could leak invoice PDFs. She found one stale OAuth grant to a third-party budgeting app Brandon had once helped me set up. Revoked. She flipped every account she could to hardware key 2FA, enrolled a second key as backup, and printed single-use recovery codes to a sealed envelope in my safe. We replaced old passwords with passphrases stored on a password manager locked behind the hardware keys, and we enabled passkeys where available so phish-proof logins became default. She set a canary token, a decoy file labeled Trust Master Passers, PDF, and put it in a folder Brandon would be tempted to reach if he'd ever retained access. If that token pings, we get an IP and a timestamp. Reflection? Bait isn't just for people, it's for systems. Let them announce themselves. Phones next. We added a carrier port-out PIN, placed a Do Not Port note on the account, enabled number lock, and removed old eSIMs. We turned on SIM change alerts and disabled voicemail PIN resets via customer service. Erin checked my phone for configuration profiles I didn't install. None. She toggled iMessage FaceTime to re-verify on the new SIM lock so future spoofing attempts would fail. Contact groups got cleaned. Bank numbers labeled and favorited. All other numbers unmarked, so I'd never return unknown calls out of habit. She taught me a simple drill. If a call mentions security, hang up. Call the number on the back of the card and ask for the fraud desk with a case ID you already have. Drill it until it's automatic. Cameras and physical security came back into scope. Erin extended retention from 14 to 30 days on the NVR, set encryption keys to rotate monthly, and exported a test clip to confirm timestamps matched system time. We enabled privacy masking so neighbors weren't captured, and we scheduled a monthly audit. Pull 2 random clips, verify clarity, and note any blind spot. I installed a second motion sensor on the side gate. She also added a keypad tamper alarm that sends me a push if anyone tries to guess a PIN more than twice. A lock is a story. The log is the evidence. We ran a breach drill, timed. Erin said, "Assume your bank denies your voice and claims they had consent. Go." I pulled my pre-written bank affidavit, swapped the bracket fields, printed to PDF, and faxed using the eFax account we had tied to counsel. I sent the spoliation letter template to the bank's legal address, attached the last known spoof email with full headers, and added the SHA-256 to the footer. 10 minutes, 45 seconds. She nodded. Again, dealership. We did it in 9. Practice shaved minutes. Minutes matter when money moves in seconds. We did device inventory. I photographed serial numbers for everything. Laptops, camera base, router, phones, and appended purchase dates and warranty terms to the ledger. Erin installed an endpoint protection agent that logs suspicious behavior and emails a daily heartbeat to my alias account. We set a task to rotate Wi-Fi keys quarterly and to archive old logs to cold storage. She showed me how to read the router's DHCP list so I could spot an unknown device. We found one, an old tablet entry with Brandon's nickname in the hostname from months back. It had no current lease, but the record lived. We factory reset the router to purge stale leases, rebuilt from the secure config, and moved on. My email workflows got a structural overhaul. We created a legal intake mailbox that only counsel and I used, Every subpoena or production arrived there, filtered by sender domain, labeled by case ID, and auto-exported to the read-only folder by a script at 2200 nightly. We added a rule that any message attempting to forward or auto-delete in legal intake is blocked and alerts me. For my main mailbox, Aaron added a footer to outgoing messages. All legal instructions on bank or asset changes will be signed via notary or counsel. No exceptions. A sentence can prevent a forgery from pretending to be my voice. Hindsight validated. Set expectations in writing before someone tries to interpret you. We built a single point of failure chart and eliminated each point. Only one person, me, could approve bank changes. Only one device, the hardware key, could unlock the password manager. Only one channel, counsel, communicated with institutions. Everything else either mirrored or watched. Aaron left me with 2 laminated cards: breach drill, bank, and breach drill identity. Each 3 steps, each with the fax number and case ID fields blank for me to fill. I taped them inside the safe next to the recovery codes envelope. Small pause. Not comfort, readiness. Third, the administrative ally. At the VFW hall, I asked around for someone who loved paperwork. A retired S1 clerk named Walter raised a hand before I finished the sentence. Deadlines and forms? That's my hobby. We met the next morning with coffee and a portable scanner. Walter became my paperwork NCOIC. He built an evidence index that made my ledger look like a draft. Each packet got a catalog number, each exhibit a sub-number. Every file name forced into a standard: date, source, subject, hash. He created a deadline head wall: civil discovery dates, hearing dates, bank response SLAs, subpoena compliance windows, each in red with a buffer window in yellow. He reviewed my cloud structure and added a checksum manifest for each folder, so any tampering would throw a mismatch instantly. He also set up a case log in a spreadsheet with filters for who sent what, when, and what's outstanding. Once a week, he called me for 10 minutes, ran the list, and we closed loops. Hindsight note: people think justice is a lawyer. It's also a clerk with a calendar and a pencil. Walter drafted a 1-page aid protocol document that turned my rules into a handout. It said what I do and don't do. Pay vendors directly, receipts required, no cash, no shared credentials, delivery to my address only, no last-minute paperwork signed at doors or in cars, notary on anything with the word power, and no please sign for me without counsel. He formatted it like a standard operating procedure and put it in the same QR system as the evidence packets. Any future ask gets this document first. Boundary doctrine codified. He smiled. It's like counseling soldiers. Set the expectation once and reference it forever. The emotional ally. Practical version. At the VFW, I ran a small group workshop. No podium, no speeches. We opened bank apps and set up credit freezes, created IRS accounts for transcript pulls, and generated FTC identity theft reports for anyone who'd had family help go sideways. A pro bono clinic rep sat at the back and flagged VA admin issues she could handle. Address corrections that had been exploited, direct deposit confirmations, and portal security key enrollments. We filed 2 IRS penalty abatement requests for men who had CP-14s because they trusted a nephew. We logged the receipts and taught them to keep them. One guy brought a shoebox of unpaid notices. We scanned, categorized, and built him a plan. I kept my own case moving by helping theirs, building a network that would testify to procedure if needed. Not a catharsis circle, a work party. Reflection. Service works both directions. It also creates witnesses who understand what chain of custody means when asked. Neighborhood perimeter, rebuilt. I met with the handyman who'd canceled on a rumor and gave him a 1-pager with the QR code. He scanned, nodded, booked the project, and offered to be a camera watcher if I ever traveled. I assembled a watch list, 2 neighbors on either side, and shared a secure link to a camera view with limited access. We set a simple protocol. If you see a person on my porch outside delivery windows, call me and the police if I don't answer 2 rings. I placed a lockable drop box on the porch for mail with a 24-hour pickup routine. Trust regained isn't talk. It's stamped paper and a lock. My trust attorney became the quiet backbone. Quarterly reviews on calendar. Beneficiary checks, successor trustee readiness, conflict audits. We added a corporate trustee as a backstop so the next family help couldn't argue from proximity. He drafted standing instructions to banks, no changes without notarized signatures, and a callback to a number on file that sits on my hardware keys vault. He filed them to each bank's legal department with certified mail numbers that we logged. He also created a letter of wishes for personal items, including medals, so if anything ever happens, there's no ambiguity. I funded the trust properly, retitled the accounts, not just the deed. He checked recordings, confirmed acceptance, and we filed confirmations into the ledger. Past me would have trusted memory. Current me trusts recorded instruments. The lender relationship shifted from adversarial to aligned. Their fraud unit assigned a named investigator who now copied me and counsel on every step. They hired an external e-sign forensic firm we suggested. They issued a provisional no derogatory reporting letter covering the life of the investigation, and they put the vehicle's telemetry on the legal hold. We offered cooperation, times, locations, names. They saw a clean client who documented. Cooperation cut future friction in half. Again, procedure beats posture. To reduce entropy, I built weekly and monthly rhythms. Sundays, export bank CSVs, reconcile, hash and upload. Mondays, check counsel's docket and Walter's deadline headwall. Wednesdays, camera audit. 2 random clips, 1 daytime, 1 night. First of the month, rotate Wi-Fi keys, change 1 major password, test the 2 hardware keys, and verify cloud backup integrity by restoring a random file. Quarterlies, trust review and insurance check. Umbrella limits against current exposure. Identity coverage terms still current. Each task took minutes because the system stayed simple. Reflection. The opposite of chaos isn't calm. It's cadence. I added canaries to paper, too. I created 3 decoy letters with wrong account numbers and placed them in a drawer Brandon had used before. If anyone photographed them and tried those numbers, the first 2 digits would fail or ping an alert we placed with the bank's fraud team. No motion for months. Good. Detection without incident means the perimeter is being respected, or the threat is learning to stay away. Either outcome keeps assets safe. We turned the Thanksgiving incident into a template. Counsel's investigator compiled a community incident kit, sign-in sheet, witness declaration form, QR poster, time sync routine using a phone clock next to a slide for anchoring. He standardized the audio and video capture so any future reveal, mine or someone else's, would collect statements cleanly. He asked if I'd be willing to attend one for a different case as a coach. I said yes and blocked the date. Helping others build clean records makes my own case stronger in court culture. They see a pattern of discipline, not an outburst. I reapproached the school with documents instead of requests. I met the principal with my notarized pickup authorization and a letter from counsel clarifying rumor falsity and the legal consequences of defamation forwarding. I asked for the policy governing who can add unsafe tags and requested that any such change require signatures from legal guardians plus documentation. They updated the file and apologized. I logged the policy change and the date. Consequence beats complaint. My CPA joined the garrison. We reconstructed my tax trail for the year Brandon's mail hit my address, drafted amended returns where needed, and filed a penalty abatement request citing reasonable cause and immediate corrective action. He set me on electronic correspondence only, moving away from paper vulnerability. He also set a calendar for quarterly estimates auto-paid from the trust account, not my personal account, to keep the paperwork separation strict. He documented every change and included a cover letter for the IRS file referencing case numbers. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Penalties removed. Hindsight validated. Documentation plus prompt correction pays compound interest. Insurance aligned with reality. I added fraudulent conveyance defense costs to the umbrella rider, confirmed coverage for identity investigation hours, and scheduled a midterm review to keep limits ahead of exposure. My agent added my lawyer as a contact of record for claims with a line that says, "Do not discuss with any third party without counsel." We noted the policy changes in the ledger with endorsement numbers. Paper shields the roof as much as shingles. By the end of the month, Alliances were not people I hoped would care. They were roles with checklists. The lawyer advanced counts and deadlines. The tech ally hardened and watched. The paperwork NCOIC tracked and chased. The CPA reconciled and filed. The neighbors observed and called. The trust attorney set rails that outlived moods. The lender's fraud unit moved from opaque to accountable. The pro bono clinic cleaned VA data so no one could repeat the reroute trick with an address change. I could describe relief, but I'd rather measure outcomes. 0 unauthorized logins, 0 derogatory marks, pension deposits routing on schedule to a locked institution, marketplace records in hand, dealership CCTV preserved, TRO extended after the first review, and a calendar that didn't surprise me once. If that's not peace, it's close enough for work. Have you ever watched a mess shrink because you assigned it a custodian and a cadence? That's the through line. I didn't fix family. I fixed surface area. I didn't negotiate intentions. I negotiated procedures. And with alliances in place, the next phase wasn't survival. It was building something worth defending on purpose. The garrison stood up. The board was quiet. And the mission, mine, could shift from defending the perimeter to choosing the next objective with a clear head and a full ledger. Professional victory came as a set of clear, quantifiable closures. The fraudulent SUV lease, voided. The dealership's CCTV and e-signature forensics locked the forgery down to a single device and IP. Their own counsel filed the cancellation request with the lender. The lender issued a no derogatory reporting letter, wiped all balance entries, and confirmed in writing that no further collections would be pursued. That freed the cash flow I'd kept in reserve, $1,100 a month, that now went straight into 4-week T-bills through the trust account, laddered so each maturity brought in both principal and interest. I updated the ledger. Asset returned to productive use. The pension deposits, rock steady. 3 consecutive months hit the locked institution's account without a single failed login or change request. Each deposit matched the VA's benefit summary to the penny. I pulled the CSVs, reconciled against the zero-based budget, and hashed the files to the evidence archive. Not because I expected a fight, because procedure says you keep proof even when the fight is over. Reputation measured the same way. The school file showed my pickup clearance active. The principal signed a letter confirming policy changes to prevent future misuse. The handyman completed the job he'd canceled a year ago. I logged the invoice paid, photos taken, QR linked. Personal protocol solidified into muscle memory. A new neighbor dropped by with a small favor. Could I sign for a package while they were away? It was a courier envelope, unmarked. I said, leave it here and I'll sign nothing. Instead, I photographed the label, sent it to their email and told them to pre-sign with the carrier or redirect to their own P.O. box. They nodded. No pushback. That's the boundary working without friction. At the VFW, a younger vet asked for a short-term loan, just to get past the weekend. I handed him my 1-page aid protocol. If you can fill this, I can process it. He looked at the receipts requirement, laughed, and said he'd figure it out another way. The protocol isn't a wall, it's a filter. Civil case posture, deliberate. Counsel received marketplace production showing login IPs, timestamps, and sale chats. We set mediation for day 90, with settlement terms still unchanged. Admission, restitution, return or value of the Bronze Star, no contact, consent judgment. If they stall, discovery proceeds. Criminal track, alive. The DA's office acknowledged the referral. The detective had warrants for device and ISP records. I added each filing date to the ledger. No speeches, no threats, just timestamps and docket numbers. Teaching loop completed the arc. I ran the boundary and paper trail session at the VFW again, this time as a formal workshop with printed kits. Affidavit template, dispute letter, spoliation notice, QR code to a sample read-only evidence folder. One attendee emailed 3 weeks later. He'd recovered $9,300 from a similar family help scheme by following the steps. I printed the email, logged it in the ledger under network effect, proof of replication, and archived the hash. Final debrief? I ran it like an after-action review. Objective: stop unauthorized asset control. Result: pension secure, fraudulent lease voided, property in trust, perimeter hardened. Lessons: Freeze all vectors before confronting. Document everything in real time. Codify boundaries so they survive memory loss, persuasion, or fatigue. Regrets? Only the time spent believing just until Friday meant Friday. Gratitude? For the rails, legal, technical, administrative, that held once I set them. Forgiveness? Procedural, not sentimental. If restitution arrives, it's logged. If not, the system still works. And the last question, one I'd ask any parent, any vet, any target. At what dollar, what signature, what rumor do you stop protecting and start prosecuting? Because when you know that threshold before they test it, you don't flinch, you act.